Good morning, everybody, and welcome. I understand getting here from a map perspective and logistics was a little difficult, so thank you for your persistence. This is the SDL conference and hackathon. We've had a hackathon running for over 20 hours now. Started yesterday, 55 hackers that participated. Some of them joined as a team here before they came. Some of them joined when they got here. First prize is $5,000, and we're going to award the winning prize after lunch today, and it's going to be audience participation. So if you want to come back and vote on which is the best hack, that'd be awesome. And the thing I'm most impressed when we do this is that, you know, how friendly and how well the SDL code has been architected, because the vast majority of the participants have up and working code in 20 hours, which says a lot about the code itself. I guess I should introduce myself, Doug Vandagens. I'm the Global Director of Connected Vehicles and Platforms at Ford, and I'm also the SDLC, C standing for Consortium Chairman. And happy to talk to you a little bit about Smart Device Link this morning. So, just to get a feel for it, how many people are somewhat or fairly familiar with SDL? Because I don't want to spend a lot of time if you're really familiar. Who's really pretty familiar? Okay, I'll spend some time on it then. Here's the basics for Smart Device Link. Fundamentally, there's two pieces of code. SDL core gets put into the head unit, and the SDL proxy goes into the app in the phone. And that really enables communication between the two devices. In this particular form, there's no third-party code in the head unit itself. And really fundamentally what we do is we extend the UX or HMI from the phone into the car so you can keep your hands on the wheel and your eyes on the road. So you can use steering wheel buttons, the touch screen, and importantly any embedded voice engines. We have a couple of ways that this renders itself in the vehicle. Last year we just really had template-driven HMIs. That's shown on the right, where you can transfer text and data and images. You see the image in the right-hand side there, and text as well. These are free. These are templated that are probably most often approved by the OEM and meet NHTSA standards, so that takes a lot of the burden off the developer. We most recently introduced a projection technology, which takes exactly what you see on your phone and puts a mirror image onto the vehicle screen. Obviously, anybody implementing that has to be more careful about driver distraction because there's less control, but it's a wonderful facility both for the OEMs, the Tier 1s, and app developers as well. I want to talk a little bit about the SDLC membership and how we've grown. We formed a little less than 2 years ago, and we have grown to 41 members. We've got a really nice mix of automotive OEMs, Tier 1s, consumer electronics companies, and app developers. We really have a lot of content providers that have joined recently. I'm going to go through kind of all the levels. The diamond level here is shown. We have 3 members at the diamond level, platinum level. I'll leave this up for a bit. This is the gold level. The levels just represent what you have access to and kind of the contributions that you make, but you're able to release SDL code at any level. And then the silver level. And so I also want to touch on what we offer in terms of centralized resources. So if you're a developer or an OEM, you can come in and on smartdevicelink.com, you'll find the following resources: SDL core implementation guidelines, SDL server documentation, unique app ID generation, iOS and Android SDKs, and developer support. We had Tim Babbitt from GM join us. He was actually hacking with us yesterday. So we're looking to add new members, but his comments were the documentation was really top-notch and really easy to work with. So we continually get positive comments about how easy it is to work with SDL. And then you can also customize the experience, right? And that's one of the things we did when we architected and designed SDL a long time ago, is we made sure that while we offered these centralized resources, the circle in the middle, that members are able to create their own branded experience by providing unique rules to, for instance, vehicle data access, policies administration, HMI, and app approval criteria so that they can control the quality and the speed to market. So we think that's a nice balance between centralized resources and things that the members can dictate themselves. From a product highlights perspective, one of the things that you always wonder about with a consortium or one of the, kind of these standards activities is, you know, how active is it? Is it continuing to release code? You know, has it kind of gone by the wayside? And in addition to our 41 members that we've added, you know, the releases are continuous and they're growing each year. In fact, our budget's growing each year. You can see how many proxy releases, how many Android and iOS releases we've had just in the last year, how many core releases and policy server releases. And that's just a number of releases. In terms of product releases, we're not stale there either. We've released iApp over Bluetooth. We have Wi-Fi connectivity, remote control, projection technology that I talked about a little bit earlier, the mirroring, and probably most importantly is we're extending this capability into the embedded space. And I'll talk about that in a little bit here. So we like to talk about at Ford, I put my Ford hat on, beamed in, built in, and brought in. Beamed in is really kind of, you know, broadcast one-to-many, satellite radio, AM, FM, certainly has its place and certainly has its cost and infrastructure advantages. Built-in and embedded modems, I don't know if you're familiar with it. You know, Ford was kind of known as the brought-in strategy because we started with Sync. We offered emergency services as an example through your brought-in phone. But recently we announced, you know, we're diving headfirst into embedded technology. And 100% of our vehicles in North America will be equipped with modems in 2000 by next year, 2009, and then 80% globally the following year. And so we've got a much greater balance, and I believe even more strongly now that there's a great place for both embedded technology and SDL technology, and I'll talk about that. So the case for brought-in. Again, SDL is leveraging the phone that you bring into the car, right? It's not built in. We've seen a lot of examples where there's built-in and brought-in products that complement one another. We have something called a connectivity manager in the vehicle that looks for the least expensive connection or the fastest connection. This is particularly advantageous in our autonomous vehicle releases. And you see people like SiriusXM, companies like SiriusXM, who released their 360L product that both has a satellite and embedded connection. And so, you know, we find that these technologies don't necessarily conflict, but oftentimes complement one another. Whenever you bring a phone into the car, you're leveraging the most recent technology. The fastest connection, the greatest processing power, just by its nature. Anything that you bolt into the car, and you can't afford to replace that every year, right, is going to be outdated technology. So you're able to replicate the experience people are used to on their cellular phone, and that's an advantage. It provides a powerful UX that people are used to in either form, and it's accessible outside the vehicle. And it's fast to market with low engineering effort, and obviously there's no TCU hardware costs. It's amazing, you know, now that we are down this embedded path, and again going to be 100% connected, every time we look at a product opportunity, we assess embedded versus brought in with AppLink or SDL, right? And we've had probably 24 use cases, and I can't remember a single one where it was faster to bring the embedded product to market. So it's a really light architecture, and it's definitively fast to market. And then we know that, you know, brought-in has a lot of killer use cases, including music apps, integration to embedded navigation, both from the phone to an embedded navigation, and also from embedded nav out to the phone, and video streaming. Of course, these guys, right, the third-party solution, CarPlay and Android Auto, can we possibly compete? Why would you want to establish an automotive standard when these guys are out there and their market share is increasing? And most OEMs, you know, that offer SDL offer both. And I know that there's room for both. But why would we also want an automotive standard? As I mentioned before, SDL allows the OEM to maintain their own brand DNA consistent with the rest of the automotive experience. And they don't want to just cede that experience to Apple or Google. Probably most importantly, it allows direct acquisition of the data coming from the vehicle. Everybody has seen the automotive companies change, the automotive industry, and really everybody, right? Everybody here and in Silicon Valley is after data because of its value, right? And through Android Auto or CarPlay, that goes directly, to those companies, not to anybody else in the value chain. And that's something that I know all the OEMs are dedicated to trying to keep. It enables the automotive company to have direct access to customers and the associated monetization opportunities without paying a toll. So we've had people like Spotify, Pandora, and others come and say, hey, we don't want to pay the 30% toll we get on iOS or the 15% toll after that. We want to sell this through Ford dealers, through the Ford website, through through SDL. That means there are true business opportunities, and a lot of these app developers that create subscription revenue, right, have a better place to monetize, through SDL than they do in the other stores. They do both. Right, but for instance, Pandora recently did a deal with AT&T and T-Mobile, and one of the reasons is it comes with an all-you-can-eat data plan. Music streaming takes up a lot of data. One of the reasons they did that is because it's better margins for everybody, and so I think that's going to continue to support, SDL. It enables the automotive industry to have control over which apps have access to the vehicle. Incredibly important for safety reasons. I see John Leroy here for litigation reasons, right, John? and because we want to control the experience, right? And we love CarPlay and Android Auto. Our customers love it. We're going to continue offering it, right? But what shows up there is totally not in our control. And with SDL it is. This enables a proprietary automotive standard to offer products where the automotive industry is the SME, the expert. Okay? We are not the experts in search. We're probably not the experts in mapping right now. We may not be the experts in music as an industry, but we sure as heck are, or think we're going to be the automotive or the experts in things like vehicle diagnostics, vehicle health, autonomous vehicles, electric vehicles, servicing vehicles. And so because of those, right, and the expertise we have, we want to keep an independent link available from the cloud and the apps and all the great developers that are here into the vehicle. And then it also offers customers choice, which is fantastic, because it's really hard to predict who the winners are going to be in this arena. Look how fast Alexa has come onto the scene, and everything happening in China. This goes into a little bit more detail around vehicle data administration, but you really can build your own custom data practices in terms of permissions with the customers and what they're willing to share and who you're willing to share it with, which is an advantage. And also, you can decide who to make that data available to, and where to pursue monetization opportunities. I talked a little earlier about OEM branding. This is an example of it. You see the Pandora app on the right, and then through SDL it manifests itself on the left there. And you can see that bottom row is a toolbar that appears on all of the Ford Sync screens. So that's maintained. You can maintain color screens, but as I mentioned before, there's places to put images, data, text, etc. So it's fairly flexible in a templated form. I talked a little bit about, SDL is compatible with any OS and any application, right? We know that CarPlay and Android Auto, there's certain limitations. CarPlay only allows Apple Maps and Siri. Android allows Google Maps and Google Now and Waze. We can allow all of that, right? And we can create flexibility. And that flexibility may manifest itself in, hey, I really like Waze for my navigation experience, but I love Amazon Music. And so I want to jump from one environment to the other, and SDL allows that. And it allows us to be a concierge for the customer that's driving between all of those environments. I think that's a real advantage. So I talked about how active the developer community is. These are just some examples of some of the developers. We have all of our developers and all of our tier ones that meet in a steering committee, which is a technical committee, and they're all contributing code and making comments. So if I didn't mention it before, SDL is open source. both the core and the proxy. It's been that way for 2.5 years. I think that's one of the reasons why we're growing so fast and getting so many contributions. I think that's really probably one of the only ways to survive going forward. I see that in a lot of different software available to the auto industry in terms of AI technology and digital assistant technology. It's kind of going the same way, and I think everybody's attracted to that open standard and open opportunity. But I'll just pick out a couple of things here. For instance, Luxoft, the fourth dot pointing down, they introduced an in-vehicle translator, cloud translator, so that, let's say you were an Uber or a Lyft driver, right, and you had somebody in the back seat that didn't speak your language. Right, this allows you to go out to the cloud, interpret the language and then communicate with the person in the back seat. That's just one example of some of the great work that a lot of our partners are doing. Electrobit has worked on production releases with all of the companies you see on the right-hand side. So Glimpse, Waze, Sygic, Spotify, Pandora, iHeart, SiriusXM, AccuWeather, and Domino's. So they've been super active in terms of product releases. I will remind you that SDL has the largest developer base in the planet. Versus any other connected technology. We have over 100 developers. I don't know the count. I can't keep track of it. There's so many. But it is the #1 linking technology in the automotive industry in terms of app partners. Pioneer has been a great partner for us. They've partnered with us since 2015. They've had a number of releases, including showing this working in their head unit 4 years ago, actually. One of the sample use cases is that they have an IoT use case where they turn on AC and open garages through SDL. So there's IoT functionality using a geofencing function. Garmin has integrated our technology into their head unit as well. And we found that you have to come out and look at the technology or visit the site to understand how well this was architected and why all these companies are just going ahead and implementing Smart Device Link. Toyota, lots of new news for Toyota. Toyota launched an SDL in North America in 2018 as a production product. They're planning to introduce it in Japan in late 2018, so any time now. They introduced a TomTom online navigation experience, combining offline maps and online services such as traffic and speed cams. They've introduced a Waze navigation product. They do this all on automotive-grade Linux. And then Ford, we've had a number of products released as well. We released Ford Plus Alexa and Lincoln Plus Alexa, which really has a number of functions. It's home to car, car to the cloud, and car to home. So we have IoT functionality, we have control over your vehicle from your app, and we have access to all the great services that Amazon offers in their cloud. We introduced a Waze projection app as well. And think about this kind of blows me away because we didn't think we were going to be able to do this, right? But Google owns Waze, Google owns Android Auto, and even considering all those relationships, right, Waze took a look at our technology and our projection and our path forward, and they wanted to release an SDL version, which is wonderful now because you can get Waze no matter what kind of operating system or phone you use. WebEx with Cisco, we're very high on safe to use productivity tools, so that if you're driving in your car and you forgot or you weren't connected to a WebEx, right, it can remind you and automatically connect you, so you don't have to enter in any codes or anything like that, and that's really safe, right? Titled Music, Hear Me Out, and iHeartRadio are additional releases that we made this year. So overall, I think the momentum is really good. It continues for an organization and a consortium that's only 18 months old. So I'm glad you all joined us here today. We have a number of speakers here. And I guess with that, Scott, do we have time for questions or do we need to move on? I'll try questions because I got the technical team out there. No, you didn't. So, yeah.
I was curious about how the monetization works and how they get past customer acquisition and subscription services, even though these are apps running, distributed through the app stores.
So if you go look at the terms of use, the T's and C's for Android and Apple, right? If you sell a subscription, through their app, then I think with Apple you pay a 30% fee in year one and a 15% fee after that. If you sell that same subscription, not through that app, but let's say through a Ford dealer or through another website, you don't pay that toll. And so that's why you see some of the app providers moving to alternatives other than selling those subscriptions through the app stores.
That was all of them.
Okay, thank you. Thanks very much.